So I want to kind of talk about a system that I use for long-term goal setting system. And if you have my vision book, I actually kind of outlined this in the vision book. So if you have it, it's just a digital PDF that you can download on GoodNotes or Notability, like on your iPad. And I've duplicated it for yearly goals and then also for financial goals. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to map out your 10-year vision. So if you have a bullet journal, go ahead and get it out. If you have any sort of journal, you can do this with me. We're going to have a 2-page spread kind of by the time we're done with this. So you want to have a 10-year vision. And I have a visioning video. It just kind of walks you through really imagining in your mind, what do you want your life to look like in the next 10 years? And one thing that I like to do is I like to write out how old I'm going to be. So since I'm 26 right now, in 10 years I'll be 36 years old. It just kind of helps me like really understand. So I would take some time, and I would really take some time to go through this, maybe 15, 20 minutes, and put on some nice music, whatever you connect with, and really imagine yourself. And I like to do this on a typical weekday. So like if I woke up on a Wednesday, 10 years from now, I'm 36, what's a typical weekday look like? And just kind of go through my day and write it like a novel with details. Like, when you read a novel, there's a lot of details. So I would go through and write that. This is one of my favorite exercises of all time. And I do this semi-regularly. I like to do this probably once a quarter. And then at night when I go to bed, like the last 10 minutes before I fall asleep, I like to think about this. And it just keeps me really connected. And the last 10 minutes before you go to sleep, you apparently have more access to your subconscious mind. And it's also part of law of attraction. It's a process called segmentation. And all it means is visualize segments of your life before they happen. Because you can't do something if you haven't thought about doing it first. And so this is like a 10-year segment. So we're visualizing a 10-year segment. And then you keep chunking it back smaller and smaller. And you visualize, what do you want 5 years from now? What do you want a year from now? What do you want 3 months from now? What do you want for a month from now? This segment. What do you want this week? What do you want this day to look like? And you just keep analyzing and visualizing smaller and smaller segments. So that's why it's called segmentation. So yeah, do that. And then after you've done that, so make sure you do this first, because sometimes it can kind of sway you if you do this next part. So make sure you do this part first before you know about this next part. The next thing you'll want to notice, I'm going to divide this into 3 chunks. What sorts of things did you have in that vision? Like purchases, maybe relationships. Did you have a child? Were you married? Did you have a car? Did you have a house? Basically, what sorts of things did you have? What sorts of things in that vision? Who will you be? Were you a happy person? Were you a joyful person? Were you a fit person? And then what sorts of things do you do? Like on a typical weekday, did you go to work? Did you go on walks? Did you read? What sorts of things do you do? And equally important is to realize, what sorts of things did you not have? Did you not have debt? Did you not have dramatic relationships? What sorts of things were not there? And it's especially important to contrast, what sorts of things did you not have in that future that you already have now? Like maybe you have some relationships in your life that you're not enjoying right now, and in those future, you don't have them. What sort of person will you not be? In that vision of yourself on a typical Wednesday, maybe you were not lazy. Maybe you were not sad. And so it's kind of important to realize what kind of person you will not be. And what sorts of things don't you do? In that vision of yourself, did you not wake up and first thing go on social media? I'd be interested to see if social media consumption made it on your list at all. That's one thing, is we can kind of contrast what sorts of things do you have then and do you not have now. So then based on this is where you can kind of get into, this kind of informs what you want to be in 10 years. Now we can get into some financial goals. So what I like to do is I like to set 5-year goals. So I'm going to look at this year. So this year's 2022. The next year will be 23. The next year's 24, 25, and 26. And once again, I like to write down how old I'll be. So this year, I'll be turning 27. So 28, 29, the big 30. 31. And I like to focus on okay, so if this was my 10-year vision, and in this 10-year vision, I had a house and it had an office and there were lots of windows and it was on the ocean, or, whatever your dream life had, it's then important to kind of work your way backwards. Okay, what things would need to happen 5 years before that? And maybe focus on one goal per year. So maybe this first year, it's like, I want to be debt-free. This is just kind of a example. Maybe you want to be debt-free. Maybe the next year you want to buy a house. Maybe the next year you want to own rental properties. Maybe the next year you want to buy a car. So these are I'm just kind of picking random goals that people tend to have in no particular order. And so fill in like, what would you like your one focus to be for those years? So then once you have kind of a big focus, you've got your focus for 2022, this is your goal. Then I like to chunk it out into quarters. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So at the end of quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, and quarter 4. And this is kind of a graph of 2022. It's this year. So if your goal for this year was you wanted to be debt free, and let's make it an easy number. Let's say you've got $20,000 of debt. That's a lot. Maybe let's make it smaller. Let's say you have $10,000 of debt. So by the end of quarter 4, you want to have $10,000 paid off. And if you were going to chunk these into equal measurements, which you don't have to, sometimes I like to slope them, make it easier at the beginning and more difficult at the end. It just depends on what you think. If you want to chunk these into even parts, okay, so you need $7,500 paid off by quarter 3. You would need $5,000 paid off by quarter 2. And you would need $2,500 paid off the first quarter. And I like to not only make financial goals, but I like to make quarterly rewards. So I have quarterly goals and then quarterly rewards. So what I did this year is I had a $300 reward, which then I would get to pick. So like, okay, by the end of quarter 1, if I do this, I've got this $300 reward that I could put toward whatever I want. I want to put it toward courses this quarter, so that's what I've been doing. And so, but you could do whatever you want. So $300 each quarter, which might seem like a lot, but we're going to keep breaking this down, and it really is not that much once you keep breaking it down. So then, after you've got your quarterly goals, then I'm going to take quarter 1, and I'm going to break it down into its 3 months. Okay, so quarter 1 is the end of January, the end of February, the end of March. So I say, okay, the end of March, my goal was to pay off $2,500. So let's say maybe I want to make it easier on myself by the end of January. Maybe I want to have $500 paid off. By the end of February, I want to have $1,500. And then by the end of March, I want to have $2,500 paid off. So that's how we kind of are chunking this down. And then along with chunking down your goal, I also chunk down the reward. So we say, okay, if my reward is $300, that's $100 each month going to the reward. So you're like, see, that's not that much. Well, only $100 going. So it's not so bad. And then the final thing is I break it down into the months. But when I break it down into the months, I break it down per paycheck. So it depends. Maybe you get paid once per month, twice per month. I randomly get paid 3 times per month. So I would break down January into 3. 1, 2, 3. I've got paycheck 1, paycheck 2, paycheck 3. So I say, okay, by the end of January, I want to have $500 paid off of debt. And I also want to have $100 toward my reward. So for my reward, we're going to say that's $66 here and $36 here. If I want to have $500 paid off, maybe I want to make it easier on myself. So maybe I say, let's do 100, 300, and then 500. So this is how I take these big goals and then I put them somewhere in budgeting. So I have another video all about budgeting and how I take these goals and then how I actually chunk it down, what I do each paycheck, because I have this whole system and this whole worksheet for how I like to chunk them out. Because when I budget, I like to do the most important things to me first and then go down to things that are the least important to me. So my goals would be the first things I budget for. This $100 from this paycheck and $33 for the reward. That would be the first thing that I budget. And I go through all the different things, all my different categories, and then the final thing I would budget would be things like eating out. That's something that's very flexible and is not a big priority to me. So this has been so helpful for me to do this. And then what I do is I reevaluate every month. And I have a vision book that kind of chunks this all out, makes this a little easier, but I just really want everyone to do this. So I don't mind. If you want to do it in a journal, do it in a journal, because I just care about people reaching their goals. So what I would do is every month I'd come back. So I'd say, okay, in February, let's see what we're doing. In March, let's see what we're doing. And then I would redo quarterly planning. So yeah, I hope you found this helpful. I hope that you reach all your financial goals. I hope you really think about who you want to be and you take steps toward getting it. So yeah, thanks so much for watching this video. I'll see you guys in the next one.